one thing, I mean, just to follow up on that, or to pivot maybe to one of your points that you've got to make, I don't know, is they they were all there because turns out hiring a manager is a really big deal. The reason the place was full is hiring a manager is a really big deal, and that struck me as, oh yeah, that's right, this is a big deal, and the reason that struck me as important is because we've kind of been like, yeah, is it a big deal? Like we don't really know. There's so many bigger questions about the team and its
Yeah.
future right now that seem more immediate. And in fact, I think the press conference, I think as we get through the various points here, a lot of those questions were asked again and again and again,
Yeah.
either on the side session or the main session, right?
Yeah.
And they were not given answers. There's questions about ownership, there's questions about payroll, there's questions about competition. There's a bunch of questions that were never answered and still are not going to be answered. We're going
Yeah.
to get through those, right? But it because those are sitting around, we kind of forget, like, oh yeah, it's a really big deal as to be hired to get a new manager. That is a significant voice in the organization, yeah,
Although, did
or
you
should be.
like? Uh, uh, it's cool to have all the alumni there, and that gave it some gravitas or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I did think it was pretty subdued overall, and sort of like the actual press conference and the photo ops and all that stuff.
Sure.
It almost felt
Right.
like to me, not going through the motions. That is a negative connotation, but like,
Right.
all right, we're all here, new manager, and maybe part of that is just the fact that
Yeah.
Shelton is
Um,
has been here before.
I
But
mean, that is part of what I'm talking about. Is there's a dichotomy. There was the dichotomy in there where the attitude kind of going into it, and I think amongst the crowd was sort of like, okay, yep, I mean, this is going to be. It's
yeah,
not that big of a deal, and then you're like, oh no, this is supposed to be a really big deal. Like you've got
yeah,
alumni,
but
and you've got a new manager, and there's only 15 of these guys, and he's going to be around for 4 or 5 years, going to be a leader of these young men, etc. I don't know. It was that I was struck by. I was like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be a big deal, but we haven't been treating it like a big deal. But because I'm not really sure it is a big deal,
well, I mean, it's a
So
it's a big deal to Shelton, and his whole
sure,
family
of
was there, and that
course,
was good to see and everything. But it even like the prepared statements beforehand just sort of seemed like, I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I'm
yeah.
probably biased on that front. But here's a couple other things. We're just basically what we're gonna do, John and I, like you said. So they had a press conference at 1, where up on a little stage table for 3, Shelton in the middle, Falvey on one side, Jeremy Zoll, the GM, on the other side. They took questions for like almost a half hour, I would say. They made like
maybe
opening
most and
statements.
maybe most importantly, the entire back row is camera crews from TV
Yeah.
stuff, which
So I'm
which
sure people
changes the
watched
vibe completely
for
from
sure.
a press scrum with
Yeah.
Falvey or a press scrum with Shelton versus this is a press conference with
Right.
TV and lots of recorded video. Right.
And once that ended, then everyone kind of broke off into corners of the room, and like Falvey talked like a side session to a bunch of us. I know we were both in that, and then later Shelton talked to a handful of reporters like that. So we got kind of two opportunities to hear from both of them, one on a stage and one kind of in a corner of a room.
Right.
And so we're just kind of going to jump around and give our two perspectives, because I'll be curious, because we were both at the same thing,
Yep.
theoretically
Yep.
having the identical experience.
Right. Yeah.
But I'll be curious if John's takeaways are a little different than mine. A few things about, like, so again, this is me, you know, noticing things that maybe no one cares about and
Right.
thinking about them, which I do a lot. Shelton thanked the Polads first, and then thanked Dave St. Peter second, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then thank Falvey and Zoll and everyone else,
So
which I
I
was
will.
like,
I will. I as I read through the transcription of me
yeah,
talking to Falvey, I did think to myself, why did nobody ask him about the business side of anything? Because including me, like mostly, I was just like, or even on a side talk or something like that. But I mean, it's because I don't feel like
well,
it's
I
particularly
guess
valuable to ask him about
I
it,
could have
right?
turned to the person literally next to me and said something about it, Dave St. Peter, but I didn't.
Yeah, right, that's
Uh,
true too. Yeah, right.
and then the other thing that I thought was kind of funny, which is a little detail, and people speak off the cuff or whatever, although it seemed like some of the opening statements were pretty prepared.
So at least one was, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, one was. Will be nice. I'm no great public speaker, as you guys
No,
can see from this. So I'm not.
I've got no problem with that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll just say it. Jeremy Zoll sounded really, really rehearsed and well prepared.
Jeremy, that was John Bonnes. That's
yes,
twin
right.
at
That's
Twins
right.
Geek saying that.
I don't know that Jeremy's that comfortable speaking off the cuff as Falvey. Falvey's exceptionally comfortable with that, and Shelton is exceptionally comfortable with that. Jeremy doesn't seem to be as comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And so he went into it prepared like he should and
Sure,
made a nice statement. That
I'm
is
not,
correct. Yes.
I'm not mocking them. In fact, I haven't even said that. You said that.
I was the one who said that.
I just said one of them. They kept saying, like, welcome home to Shelton.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
which I get the concept of that is like, he's been here before. We know him. Welcome home. This is where you're meant to be. I get all the schmaltzy stuff about that, like, which is okay, pretty standard. But this is a guy who's been in professional baseball for over 30 years, including 2 decades as a major league coach. And 2 of those seasons were spent with the Twins 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Welcome home was kind of, I thought maybe kind of weird. So you mentioned, Shelton being more comfortable or, different vibe, I thought, than Baldelli. And we've talked over the years how I felt like the Baldelli that he chose to portray on camera, on the record, was, for my opinion, too buttoned up and too sort of robotic. And I think that hurt him in terms of the fan perception, for whatever that's worth. I'm sure he didn't care. But that the Baldelli that, we got to know somewhat behind the scenes or off the record or just shooting the shit whenever, I thought was much more charming and interesting and funny and just a guy I would want to have a beer with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Shelton is, from what I've heard about him and my limited interactions with him at a couple winter meetings over the years, and then also what we saw today, is much closer to the kind of vibe I would prefer in my leader of a team, which is willing to make a joke or two on the record, willing to say something that is not anywhere near controversial, but is also not just, straightforward, yes, all this stuff. So I thought it was kind of interesting to see that. Definitely less buttoned up, trying to make some jokes. He even kind of made a joke at Falvey's expense about his title and all that stuff,
right.
which I think, that comes from having a prior relationship with the people that just hired you.
Sure.
If he hadn't had that, I'm going to guess he wouldn't come in and make a joke about anybody. But also I think that just sounds like what Shelton is like. And also just how he dresses and how he looks. And
also 6 years in the manager's seat might be part of it too. And welcome to the end of this video. There's lots more. For another, just click on one of these boxes.
Or click on this circle in the middle to subscribe to all of our Twins Talk.
Thank you.